Let me ask the big question. I apologize for the absurd romantic nature of it. Outside, I mean, one of the things, the fact that you've laid your eyes on a UFO probably opened your eyes to the possibility that some of the other sightings, there could be other sightings that have legitimacy to them. What to you is outside of your own sighting, is the most interesting sighting or UFO related event in history?
I think there's several. What is it? Ramachon Forest in England, the U.S. guys that saw stuff and actually got radiation burns. One guy was medically disabled, but they weren't going to give it, and he got help from John McCain. His office helped get the guy's disability reestablished. I think that's a big one. I think there's people out there that have seen stuff, and I'm talking credible, because you got to remember, there's a huge chunk of these sightings that get disproven. They're actually explainable.
Yeah.
You had sent me the question, the Phoenix Lights.
Phoenix Lights.
I think there's.
What's that? So I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with some of these.
I'm not either. You want a funny story on that? So I was at a conference. And hopefully he doesn't watch this and get offended, but we had this. It was, I call it speed dating. So there was a table. There was about 8 people at a table.
Yeah.
And we would go sit at the table and they could ask us questions. And then after 10 minutes, we moved to the next table.
Yeah.
So I was speed dating all these people that are really into this.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny, but I'd sat down, and it's always funny because some people will try and dominate it, but you have to kind of push the dominators away so that, if you're quiet and introverted, you can ask your question too. Yeah. So we got into this, and the guy starts naming all these. Well, what about this? What about the Phoenix Lights? I'm like, I don't know about the Phoenix Lights. What about this event? I don't know about that. He looks at me and he goes, well, you're not a UFO guy. I go, no, I'm not, but I chased one, so I'm an expert. Have you? And you could see him get deflated because I'm kind of a smartass like that.
Yeah, I mean, the firsthand experience from a credible, in some sense, these sightings have to do both with the evidence and the human.
Well, I think part of that is, to us, that's a credibility piece, because the 4 of us that actually saw it, plus, the other 2 that were in the airplane that shot the video, none of us are UFO-obsessed people. So when we come out and say, because to me, it's 5 minutes of my life. I did a lot of really cool, I've had a really kind of neat things I've been able to do. But when you look at it and go, to me, it's not the pinnacle of my life. To other people that they live in the UFO world, and it's like if you talk to people, they'll go, that are really into it, who've never seen one. It kills them that they didn't see one. When here we are, and what's unique with ours, which kind of adds that level, is we just didn't see it. It wasn't like, oh, look, something in the sky and it was weird. We actually engaged with it. It was an engaged 5-minute thing. And there's other stories from other countries. Like there's a story when the Soviet Union existed, that they actually would chase these things, and one of them shot at it shot at it because they said shoot at it, and it shot at it, and then it got shot down. And then they said, don't ever shoot at them again and don't chase them. Just you can observe them, but don't go after them, because obviously they have firepower that we can't control. Because if you can make something float around and jam radars at will and do whatever you want, modern terrestrial weapons are probably not very useful. You can go to Independence Day. They had that force field around. Oh, we got to, now you got to cyber warfare. You got to take the bug down. You got to take the warfare. So now we can actually inhibit some type of damage.
So there's you mentioned the Phoenix Lights. Somebody on, I think Reddit said, ask him any thoughts on mass UFO sightings like the Phoenix Lights. So the interesting thing, like you said, with the Tic Tac is that multiple people laid their eyes on this. What are your thoughts about the Phoenix Lights, or many people have seen it?
So here's the deal with massive sightings. So the Phoenix Lights is unexplainable, although I know the Air Force had said something about it. It was an A-10 drop in flares. No, I don't think so. Let's see. Flares don't burn that long. They just come out and they detract and they go away. Although on the other hand, there's, because clouds can do things. So I lived in Central California for 18 years. And you would get, oh my God, what was that in the sky? And it was really Vandenberg shooting a missile off. They were doing ICBM tests at one time where they shoot from Vandenberg and they fly across and they go land in the atoll at Kwajalein. And then they can check the displacement, the accuracy and all that stuff. It's stuff that we do because we're a superpower. But when you see them go up, especially if you've ever watched a rocket really launch on a clear night, it'll have the stream, the glow, and you can tell it's a rocket. But if you don't look up until later, when it starts to get to the outer edge of the atmosphere where the plume coming out of the engine is not constrained, and you can watch this on TV when even the SpaceX ones go up. It's nice and narrow, and then it hits a point where it really starts to go up and it starts to come to the sides because the forces aren't holding that all into one unique thing, and it looks really odd. And then it'll go off because it burns out, and then you get stage separation. Then you see the next one go off, and then it's gone. And people don't understand that because they didn't watch it from launch. Because we used to sit in our driveway, and Vandenberg it was a 3-hour drive, but you could sit and watch it go. You knew they're launching at night. You could watch the thing. It's really cool. If you don't see anything, what you see is the weird clouds from the exhaust plume. What's left, the residue that's sitting in the atmosphere, and the wind starts blowing it. So you get these really kind of weird shapes in the sky. That's part. But when you go to Phoenix Lights and you go, hey, when 1,000 people see something, you're going to discredit all 1,000 people, or you're going to try and explain it away with something else. The big, it's a weather balloon. Hey, what is it? It's a weather balloon.
Again, just like the Tic Tac, I think is just inspiring for the limitless nature of the science.
I think more is going to come out. I think some of the stuff that the To the Stars folks have done.
So there's a To the Stars Academy.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts about them? Are they?
I talked to them quite a bit. I am not a part of To the Stars Academy. But like I talked to Lou. I just was texting him before this.
Yeah. What's their mission? What's their hope? When
they started, their mission was to try and don't look at this as little green men, but let's look at this as a technology, and let's try and almost reverse engineer and figure out how these things operate and how can we explain this from using our knowledge, physics-based knowledge, to go, how would something like this operate? That's really their bottom line, was to try and use, and then couple that with, because they've got the series Unidentified, couple that with television to get the word out. So you're actually putting something instead of, because everyone has a theory. Ancient Aliens covers all kinds of theories. It's kind of off of, oh my God. And I've seen the stuff, and I've seen stuff that I've said taken out of context on shows that I did not talk to. So there's all that, because you can take a clip and go, oh, it's this, it's that. And if I know about stuff, like you can't technically use my likeness unless I tell you can. So if I haven't signed something, you can't do it. There was a guy who put something out, and I was in it, and I told him, you can take it down or you can talk to lawyers, because I'm not supporting you.
So they use it to tell some kind of narrative that doesn't, it's not connected to reality.
Because let's face it, if you're making TV shows, there's 2 reasons to do it. 1, you want to get word out, or 2, you want to make money, or 3, both. And so usually I would say the make money is probably the biggest thing to put a TV show out.
And the mission of the To the Stars Academy is to not do that. Is to try to get some.
When they started, and I talked to them, because I've talked to Tom and I've talked to Lou, and those are the 2 main players. It was to basically demystify the fact and get rid of the stigma that's tied to UFOs, and let's look at it from a science base, and then use TV to get the word out on the progress. And they've done some pretty cool things. I mean, the Italian government gave them all kinds of files that had been, property of their government. They got a bunch from, it might have been Argentina, gave them all kinds of stuff. Like, here's all our records. What can you do with it? To try and now pull from country-based to a more global-based research, which is what you were talking about. And then using independent scientists that are not tied to a government, any government, but just using independent research agencies to start looking at some of the metallurgy. Because you go, oh, I found this. We had this piece of metal. What is it? And some of the stuff has been explained. They've got some artifacts that have not been explained. And that's slowly coming out, and I think...
and your hope is the U.S. government will release some.
Well, the U.S. government came out a month ago and said, we have material that we cannot explain the origin. They have said that. They just haven't released the wreckage from the Roswell thing, which I keep joking about. I'm like, come on, it's 70-some years old. Classify it, let it out.
I think you put it beautifully, that in this time, that would be a heck of an inspiring, hopeful thing to see. Like, people don't...
Just to distract them.
Yeah, right? The division is... nothing will unite us humans, descendants of chimps, like the idea that there's life out there.
Oh, it would literally change. I said this a while ago. I forget. I think it was the London Sun-Times had called me, and I said, personally, I think this is a global issue. It's not. If there is stuff coming down, which we're pretty sure there's enough stuff that we can't explain. If there is stuff coming down, then this is not a country-based thing, and it's not about technology, and it's not about who's going to win the next war, because you don't know what they're doing. So you got really a couple of theories. One, you've got ET or Close Encounters. And the other extreme is you've got Independence Day. Are you going to prepare and bet on ET and Close Encounters, or do you actually try and do stuff in case it is Independence Day? You actually have a game plan. And when you get into Independence Day, that scenario, and I don't like going too much into sci-fi, but let's just say in theory that becomes a reality. It's not a US, Russia, China, England, France, Spain, name any country in any continent. It becomes a global issue. And the only way you can deny it's just like Americans. We all, we're divided. Mm-hmm. It's been that way forever. So if you think we won't get through this, we'll get through it because we've had times just like this before.
Until Nazi Germany pops up.
But Nazi Germany pops up, or someone flies 2 airplanes into the World Trade Center, and then all of a sudden we're all like united. We all also have very, very short memories.
Yes.
We do.
Exactly.
It's when you look and go, well, we can do this. And you go, no. If you think that everyone on the planet is good, you need to stop taking the drugs that you're taking. We said this. There were people during the rise of Hitler. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. We're not going to stop. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. And you got to think, the only thing that stopped Hitler was his ego by going into Russia. If he'd have stuck with the pact with Stalin and not went to the east and had to fight, and it was really the Russian winter that crushed him, and he would have put all his high troops to the other side, there would have been a totally different outcome. The Man in the Iron, the Man in the High Tower, whatever. It's a Netflix show where Nazi actually wins it. And you look, we didn't know everything that was going on, especially the atrocities with the concentration camps and what he was doing to the Jews. I mean, you look at that going, if you really want to see evil, and then there's the whole side of what Stalin did, because he actually exterminated more people than Hitler did, but that never gets the press.
And the thing is, we forget this history. In our conflicts today, we forget that there is the nature of evil. We forget that there's real evil in the world. And the thing to fight that evil is to be united, to be both. It's like this interesting line, like you talked about Joe Rogan, of being both like kind to each other, compassionate, empathetic, but also being like strong and a bad motherfucker when you need to make sure that it's a balance between kindness and force.
Well, it is. You use force when force is necessary, but you don't have to walk around like Billy Badass all the time. Right. I mean, some of the toughest people that I grew up with that literally could kick the shit out of whoever came near them, they never got in fights because, one, even people that didn't know them, because they were actually nice guys. They're just good dudes. But, if you cross them, like I had a friend of mine, he's a nationally ranked wrestler. Mm-hmm. It went to Naval Academy with me. He's a very, very good friend of mine. And he is, when you meet him, and he wrestled at 190 pounds, and he did not lose a match his senior year until he went to nationals. He just had a bad day. He actually lost to a guy he had pummeled the shit out of. Mm. And he would cross. It was funny. We joke about it, even with him, because when you meet him, he's like the nicest, like local, hey dude, hey, how you doing? He's super nice. And he would cross that ring on a wrestling mat. As soon as he crossed that ring, it was like a totally different person. Yeah. And he would go out there and just destroy people. I mean, physically destroy, like put a hurt on. And he would get done, and he's like super humble, and they'd raise his hand, and he'd have this blank expression. They'd raise his hand, and he'd walk off, and as soon as he crossed the line, he'd look up and smile. Hey, hi guys, how you doing? Like he literally just went and could have ripped someone's arms off, but as soon as he crossed the line, he was a totally different person. He's like, and he's that way today. Yeah, and man, he wouldn't even tell you he's a wrestler.
Yeah, that's kind of a symbol of the best of America. That's what America is.
Oh, he's
that wrestler. When you cross the line, you can be hard, but once you're off the mat, you're just a kind human being.
Yeah.